December 8. Amazing. And we have begun the month of December with our theme, which is Let There Be, ellipsis, ... so that each week I can throw in something that I want there to let, or you to let, for us to let, to be. So to be or not to be, that is our question this month. And today's topic is Let There Be presence/presence. So there are two spellings. Presents. I noticed the red one, it doesn't have a name on it, but I have been eyeing that. Prezzies, they sparkle. Presence, which 'tis the season, as well as you have come into a Sunday service in what is known on a Sunday as a church, non-denominational as we may be. We are here to court the presence, Presence, the presence of God, the presence of the Spirit, the holiness. So today, as I move through this, we're going to talk about the presence, which is a really good thing today when you consider we're selling things. I thought, maybe we ought to talk about that, because 'tis the season for presence, as well as 'tis the season for the presence. And as Connie mentioned, however, I do want to start out in the presence, in acknowledging, as we said, the memorial candle for a great presence, Nelson Mandela, who, there was a quote that he said, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others," which is what we get to do in courting the presence. And then there was a complimentary quote from The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Excuse me. "I give as I wish to receive. It is not enough that I profess to love people. I must really love people more dearly than I have ever loved before, because all men are my brothers." So it's a wonderful opportunity if you would please join me for a moment of silence in gratitude and respect for a man who loved dearly, who tossed off chains that I can't even begin to imagine, to know an inner sense of freedom in order to have an external sense of freedom for himself and others. So if you would just join me for a moment of silence in that. Thank you for sharing that with me, in gratitude for this gift of a man that we were able to share in our lifetime. Returning to the presence and the presence. You would be hard-pressed to not know that this is a holiday season, that we are in the midst of the seasonal hoopla, and we completed Hanukkah last week, kind of carried over, and we've got Christmas and Kwanzaa, looming for us. And in the classes and the groups that I've shared or facilitated this week, we were talking a little bit about the holiday season from two levels. The first one was the commercialism, and that's why it's interesting, we're talking about presence, that there has been a shift, or a perceived shift, that there's been more commerciality, and what happened to the holiday and the holy day and la la la. And one of the things that I shared with them was a good example of how to shift it from the presence to the presence was that 2 years ago, a local radio station here began playing Christmas music before Thanksgiving, which made me crazy. I mean, really crazy, because I was not ready for Christmas. I'm one of the ones that I know people love Christmas and it sparkles. I love sparkles, but you go through the stores and it's Labor Day, and we're already seeing, Halloween comes, it's like September 15th, Halloween's gone, start putting up the Christmas. So I walk through, I don't look at it, and if I hear a Christmas carol playing before Thanksgiving, I go, la, 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 I'm like singing, I pledge allegiance to the flag, anything I can, because it's my choice to not hear that. Well, I was so angry that this radio station did that, I sent a letter the first year, and I sent it from Reverend Duchess thinking, well, maybe they pay attention, Oh, I ministered, and then thought, oh, maybe that didn't work because they're thinking, all right. The second year, again, I was infuriated. I sent not such a nice letter, actually an email at that point. I was just, don't take away my Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. It's a beautiful holiday. It's a spiritual holiday, blah, blah, blah. Christmas decorations, Christmas carols. Okay, so I was making myself crazy from this. This year, same thing. Started before Thanksgiving. However, I practiced what I preached. I turned it off. Hello? I realized that I was at choice. I realized that what I had done was got myself all worked up into a frenzy. I was justified. I know Judge Judy would have said, yeah, you're right, it shouldn't play before. Nothing should happen Christmas-wise until the Macy's Day Parade. I mean, come on. And for some people, they need to, and I know we're building the economy. I know there's all the reasons, and there's people who like chocolate and people who like vanilla. Okay, so what? As a religious scientist, I turned on the radio. It didn't change till 3 o'clock that Friday afternoon. It was the week before Thanksgiving, because I was listening to my music. And then it came on. It was like, I felt myself. And then the little voice said, you have a choice here. I hit the button, and other music came on. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was easy. You could V8 your way through life. I had a choice. So I tell you this goofy little story because it can be that simple. As we move through this holiday season, when we are confronted with the stuff that makes us cranky or sad, because that's the next thing I'm going to talk about, we have a choice to change our response, our reaction, our behavior. It can be as simple as changing the radio station and not listening to Christmas music until you're ready. The next day, after Thanksgiving Day, I plugged it in. La, 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 la. It was fine. But that's my head, my choice. So we have that opportunity. And what we know also about holiday season, which we talked about in all these groups this week, is that holidays can also bring up the other stuff. We've got all the beauty, we've got all the sparkles, the presents, we have the kids' faces, we have the songs, we have all the stuff that we love about the holidays. And then, for many of us, perhaps a lot of us, sometimes there is a sadness that comes up at the holidays. Sometimes there is a grief that hasn't been processed, and there's even the seasonal affective disorder, SAD, that can happen to people during winter because it's darker out light, and so there's a kind of a chemical wiring that can take place. And then if you have anything that's within you that is unresolved or sad about the holidays, it's going to come up. And sometimes it comes up in the midst of, while everybody's happy and jolly, you're feeling a sense of loneliness and sadness. And to top that off, then you feel guilty or badly about the fact you're feeling lonely and sad when everybody else is having a jolly holiday. So we need to look at that as a gift, a present, to find our way back to the presents, capital P. I'll use that distinction. Instead of the presents with the small p, which are the ones that you open, the sparkly ones, the papers, the ribbons, the presence of God that is palpable, sometimes even more so in this holiday season because at least everyone else's attention is on that. To experience peace does not mean that your life is always blissful. It means that you are capable of tapping into a blissful state of mind amidst the normal chaos of a hectic life. Jill Bolte Taylor. So there's all this hectic stuff. There's the holidays and the bustling and the shopping and did I get my cards out and what I'm going to do and who do I get for all the stuff that as adults we can tap into. Kids don't think about that, do they? It's Christmas, there's snow, there's Santa, there's prezzies, there's the smell of cookies, there's all these things. They just kind of relax into it. And then we become adults, and then we start thinking, oh, it's not the same as, but it's only for the kids. So I've got to make that experience for the kids, which is good and important. We need to allow that. And do not forget the inner child within you that still needs to honor the holidays, but the inner child who may have gone through years of difficult times growing up, that needs to return to the holiness and the presence of the presents, in addition to the presents and the gifts that we receive, in addition to the presents that we're going to buy for people and we give. And it matters not one whit if anyone outside this door has forgotten or chooses to not consider the underlying spiritual principle of this holiday, as long as we do. So we get to walk with all this. We can choose to buy things, go to sales. I won't go into my soapbox about Gray Thursday, Black Friday, etc., because I can choose not to participate. And I can still choose when I get a coupon. I also told the group that one of the things I like to do, because I'm a gift giver, giving gifts is my love language, and because I have a gift closet, and because I tend to buy for people all throughout the year, so I don't have to wait till it's Christmas, I usually have everything bought by now. And then what I used to do when I lived in the city is I would go to the mall on December 24th. I would go at the peak of the shopping frenzy, and I could just be there. And I could witness it. I could watch it. I could bless it. Does that sound perverse to you? You're laughing. Well, and maybe it is, I don't know. But the point being that I could be in the middle of it and feel the excitement, feel and listen to the music and the Santa, the person ding, 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 with the, I don't know who does that, the ding, ding. Okay, them. And I could watch, and I could see the salespeople, and sometimes I'd watch the frenzy and stuff, and I would just sit and bless them and love them, and it was like, yes, and I know, but it's Christmas Eve. And it's wonderful, because I didn't have to be, I could be in the world, but not of it. Oh, it actually works. I almost double dog dare you to try it. Get all your shopping done, and then go and be somewhere where it's, like 5:30, 8:30, before 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and just be there. Be there. Be the light. Maybe it is your presence that turns into presents that the shoppers receive that they didn't even count on. And that is because it is a choice. I am that choice. I can get caught up in the check off the list. Do I have enough? Oh, what am I going to do? How do you wrap? Oh, did I send out my cards? Oh my gosh, this person sent me a card. I forgot to send them a card. Quick, go buy another box of cards so that I can send out the one card to the person who sent me a card so that they don't, you know what I'm talking about. I don't doubt that we've all been there at some level at some point during our experience of the holidays, holy days. Remember, the word holiday comes from really holy days. And that this Christmas season that matches with winter, the solstice, comes from deep, rich spiritual tradition, not the least of which to mention is that Jesus really wasn't born in December. But we won't go there today. We have plenty of other things to discuss. So if we are dealing with our response to the sadness of the season, and sometimes it's sadness just because maybe there's somebody who's transitioned this year that is not here. It's that year first, dealing with that. If we're dealing with unresolved grief from childhood about a holiday season, I encourage you to allow that to come forth and then to find the people and places that may embrace you, to support you through that, to return to the presence. And to not get stuck or to judge one's self if you're not feeling all sparkly. If there is the emotion with that. I want to read a quote to you from, I believe you pronounce it Henri Nouwen? Henry Nouwen, I don't know, it's spelled that way, but I know it's French, Henri. To live a spiritual life, we must first find the courage to enter into the desert of our loneliness and to change it by gentle and persistent efforts into a garden of solitude. This requires not only courage, but also a strong faith. So yes, we can feel lonely at the holidays. In fact, I remember a period of time when being an only child, raised by a mom and a grandma, and they were always working, and feeling alone, although Christmas, they made sure Christmas to the nth degree, as far as presents. Sometimes skipping the presents, capital P, but lots of presents. And growing up and then changing as the adult and doing that and being and feeling lonely in the midst of a room of hundreds of people. Being a spiritual leader at different churches and conducting services or having holiday parties and being at certain points in my life then single and yet feeling completely alone in the midst of people. And that does happen to us. We can feel that. But what I want to encourage is that it's not about being lonely or alone, that we may be singular in that sense, but it's, if you're breaking down the words, it's all one. All one looks like alone. And if we allow ourselves the opportunity to feel that, not deny it, not suppress it, which is probably what we did for a bunch of years, to feel that and allow ourselves to find a way and a path of courage, as I just read, to understanding, moving that loneliness into a garden of solitude and feeling that holiness, no matter where we are, no matter what calendar date it says in December, no matter how many people may be around us, or if we are sitting by ourselves. That choosing and being in the holidays perhaps singularly, notice I'm saying that on purpose rather than to say alone, singularly does not have to be bad, wrong, or sad. It's what it may be at this time. And if we use our spiritual principles to court the presence of God and find our way out of the loneliness into a garden of solitude where there might be a greater presence than ever before. Well, sometimes that's easier said than done, isn't it, Reverend Duchess? Yep. When you're feeling that and the sadness. I know that. I'm not trying to make this airy-fairy. I'm not trying to say, oh, yeah, smile. I know you're hurting. I know you're sad. I know there's grief. I know that. And there are choices, there are options, and even if it's not as simple as changing the radio button, it is as easy as walking through it and knowing that there are points of light and people there to guide you. So I looked up some Buddha stuff, and there are Buddha's 10 perfections. I knew there were 8 paths and all that, but to practice holiness, to find a way to our spiritual awakening, there are 10 things that Buddha suggested. First one on the list is generosity. Well, now that fits right in to this season, doesn't it? This is a season where we feel more generous, where we look to places and people where we can give, whether it's to our loved ones, our neighbors, whether it's our loose change to the pageant theater, whether it's service to our Tory shelter or Salvation Army and so forth. We're of a generous nature, and Robert Heinlein writes, one of the sanest, surest, and most generous joys of life comes from being happy over the good fortune of others. So you can look at that 2 ways. If right now your life looks a little sad, a little alone, then instead of using that as a reason to beat yourself up and witness someone else who is going to different parties and having all of this, we can bless them. That's where their ebb and flow is, and we can bless where we are. And the sanest and surest, most generous joy of life is then being of service. So if we're feeling lonely, one of the surefire ways that I would recommend is to make yourself available for someone else. Now, does that mean you're going to necessarily volunteer at a place you don't know, and if you're shy, you don't want to do that? No, but I know that there are ways where each one of us can be of service to someone else. Maybe it's calling people. Maybe it's asking, do you need me to write out your envelopes for your Christmas cards? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and work at a soup kitchen, and yet there are soup kitchens and centers right here in Chico that could use an added hand and perhaps an added presence of God that is within you to be there. I know that there are ways that we can be of service, which will assist beyond that. So number 1 was generosity. Number 2 for Buddha is virtue. Virtue. Ooh, virtue. So we want to have that sense of holiness. And if you're still young at heart, that's when you have the naughty or nice list. We want to stay on the nice side for Santa to come and honor and respect the integrity of our being as we walk through this holiday season. Number 3 sounded really heavy-duty to me, renunciation. You know, I don't know, that kind of made me feel like a very small little Catholic girl. When it was renunciation, it was like, oh, what does that mean? So I explored that further from the Eastern Buddhist side rather than from what I may have grown up with. And really it is about releasing anything that's not essential. Sticking with that which is nature, your nature, what is to the core of your being, and letting go all of the but staying and renunciating anything that is in excess and being with what is essential. And I'm not looking at people having to, give up so much stuff that they're, I'm going with the idea of the essential nature of God that you are. We don't have to give up anything. Number 4, patience. Patience. It's one that I still work with. It's patience. Patience. Someone once, a spiritual colleague of mine once said, don't do a spiritual mind treatment. Don't pray for patience. And I was like, but why? I have a challenge with patience. I get impatient. I still have that kind of, kid thing. And he said, if you're praying for patience, you are going to get people and places and things that are going to allow you to have to practice patience. I went, okay, fine, no problem. No, patience is my friend. Okay. I dance with that one. I'm better at it. It works better for me when I add the compassionate element to that. Because if I am being compassionate, then I have all the patience in the world. If I'm waiting for dinner, then the microwave is not fast enough. So it teaches me balance, patience. Number 5, energy. Got that. Easy peasy. Energy. Energy, no matter what your age, no matter how you're feeling, the energy of God is that which you are, because we are not static. We are all made of the molecules and atoms and electrons and protons, and the energy that we are continues to vibrate. And what I've known is that the more I do my spiritual work over these years, the more I do that, my energy gets more vibratory, radiates even more. So we stick with the idea of energy. Even on those days when you really like not to even get out of bed, there is an energy of you that you do not need to deny or renounce. Number 6, Buddha says, resolve. I thought that was a curious one. So I read further, and resolve is the enlargement of action based on clarity. So the resolve based on clarity, well, what we teach in science of mind and religious science is about intention. We talk about our desires and our intention. And as we get our intention, then the vision comes, and then we have that clarity. It's not, well, I think I kind of, maybe. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. What do you want? And you're like, well, I don't know. And we do that. If we have the clarity, then we have the resolve. Then we're on that path of awakening. Number 7, this is the one, kind of the one I would expect on a list of Buddha awakening steps, loving kindness. Loving kindness. Well, that kind of taps into what I was talking about, the compassion. Loving kindness. And what greater season to experience that than now? Loving kindness. This is the season where all of that generosity and that giving muscle starts to, unfold and activate, and there's a sense of loving kindness, be of good cheer. Now, of course, Buddha was not talking about just December. Yet what happens when from Thanksgiving through the holiday season is that people have a sense of that. We smile more. We allow for more. There is that loving kindness nature. Number 8, truthfulness. Well, that does seem like one of those spiritual precepts. It would be something that, whether it be Buddha or someone else, truthfulness. But we're talking about a capital T truth, a higher order of spiritual well-being, not just facts truth. The facts may be this season that maybe your bank account isn't as fluid as you would like. The facts may be this season that you are feeling a little less than sparkly and there's some sadness. Those are the facts. That's not denying that. But the truth, capital T, truth of who you are, is that you are a spiritual being made in the image and likeness of God, and that you have available to you the same infinite intelligence that created you. You have access to that same infinite intelligence, energy, and presence by which to experience a greater life. That's the truth. And yes, we walk through our facts. Number 9 is wisdom. Wisdom. Makes you ponder. Wisdom. Just doesn't the word wisdom make you feel more mature? I think that's why, elders groups call them the wise elders. Yeah, because you figure by you get to a certain point, you've got some maturity under your belt, and there is a wisdom that comes. It's not just smarts. It's not just savvy. There is a wisdom to living the life. And we know that wisdom is not just something that happens. It's not like, it doesn't just come with your AARP card. Wisdom comes from growing in the presence of God as who you are. And number 10 on Buddha's list of 10 perfections. These are things that I guess he recommended to people in spiritual practice. If they came before him as the little grasshopper and said, "Oh, Guru, what are the things I need to do to expand my life, to be more holy, to be more like you?" Number 10 was equanimity. Frankly, I cannot picture Buddha saying the word equanimity. I don't know what language he had, but equanimity didn't sound like it would come out of that guy. But equanimity is how it's been defined, and that's a sense of calmness, peace, and poise. Well, now we know that. Calmness, peace, and poise. That is something that we cultivate here with our spiritual practice, as did Buddha, of course. That is something that we promote, that we teach. It is something that gets talked about and sung about during December more so than anything else. Calmness, silent night, let there be peace on earth, poise, calmness. So that's one of Buddha's 10 perfections. So we get this holiday month by which the world kind of knows what we do. So when we're talking about peace and poise and loving kindness and doing all of that, everybody's in agreement. We're no longer just talking new thought, new age vernacular that people go, "You got to be from California, right?" This spreads like snow all across our country, the globe, a sense of peace and calm, the equanimity that we seek, the peace and the calm and the poise that Mr. Mandela represented, fought for, and was, and will continue to be. His gift, his presence, does not end with the fact that he has transitioned in the life form. So, maybe, and there are tons of things on the internet right now, 50, 100 years from now, there'll be something like the 10 perfections that Nelson Mandela, someone will call together his precepts and ideas the way that we have done with Buddha, that he will be studied and understood and revered the way that Buddha is, in the sense of how he walked his life with such equanimity, with such loving kindness, with such wisdom and grace. We get to do that. That's what the holiday season is about. And everything else will be added unto thee, including the poinsettias and the sparkly things and the presents and the bows and the Christmas carols and the mistletoe. No mistletoe? I noticed, I walked around here, excuse me, I didn't see one bit of mistletoe. Oh yeah, I know, we're a church, we're a center, but it's the idea. It's the holiday. This is what we get to do. So if this holiday season is not ringing your bells the way that you are used to, or the way that you expect it to, or the way you think it is being rung for those people around you in your life or your work and the world around you, that's okay. That is okay. You want to be authentic to who you are, where you are, and you want to keep an eye towards the higher truth. You want to keep your heart open to the greater presence of God, which is the gift of the season, which is all that everything in the Bible talked about and led us up to with someone as the birth of Jesus the Christ, and why it became so important to have that metaphor, that parable, that symbology, so that we are birthed into the light, the Christ, the light, each year, so that we don't forget, so that no one can hide our bushels or hide us under a bushel. I'd like to read a very brief piece on Christmas that was written by Henry Van Dyke, and it's entitled Keeping Christmas, because sometimes we feel like we don't have that Christmas anymore. We've lost that, or we've gotten too old for it. So Mr. Van Dyke writes, "There is a better thing than the observance of Christmas Day, and that is keeping Christmas. Are you willing to forget what you have done for other people and to remember what other people have done for you? To ignore what the world owes you and to think what you owe the world? To put your rights in the background and your duties in the middle distance, and your chances to do little more than your duty in the foreground? To see that your fellow men are just as real as you are and try to look behind their faces into their hearts, hungry for joy? To know that probably the only good reason for your existence is not what are you going to get out of life, but what are you going to give to life? To close your book of complaints against the management of the universe and look around for a place where you can sow a few seeds of happiness. Are you willing to do these things even for a day? Then you can keep Christmas." Now, I think that's a fitting piece any holiday season, but again, in particular, I dedicate that to Nelson Mandela, who represented that to a greater way than any of us have known in our lifetime. To respect that sanctity, to take all those 10 perfections and know that it's who he is, so that we take him as a role model, the 10 perfections, our own inner light and nature and being, and honor that and turn the presence of the season into the presence that we are. To allow ourselves and the world around us to be the holy presence of God. To truly use this season to see the oneness within. To see that, I love how that one sentence, to see that your fellow men are just as real as you are, and try to look behind their faces to their hearts, hungry for joy. I believe that is the one true hunger. I believe that that's part of why we still are inexplicably drawn to the holidays, because it is a season of joy. It's been declared that. We have race consciousness that supports that. And that when we look at the beauty of the decorations around us, when we are gifted, when someone steps before us and hands us a present, it is about that joy. At that point, it's about the joy of giving and receiving. It's about the joy that the music and the lights and the sparkles bring to that inner childlike nature of ourselves. I believe that is what we are hungry for. And I believe that as religious scientists, who we are, what we practice, that we can feed that. And not only feed it, but we can feed it to overflowing. So whether we are feeding and serving, as we do at the Salvation Army with our team, or we are feeding and serving friends and family that come over for a wonderful festive meal during the holidays, what we must do is feed that desire and innate nature within ourselves to feed for the joy, to have a joy diet. Oh, that'll be what we'll do in January. We'll have a joy diet. And you can have it at the gym if you need to have it at the gym. And I believe if we got onto a joy diet, we would be eating perfectly in nature to who we are. So this holiday season, as we allow the 10 perfections of Buddha or Mr. Van Dyke's wisdom about how to keep Christmas, this is what we get to do with the presence within the presence of God, which gives us permission to celebrate and to party and to sparkle and sing carols all that we want, to practice the joy of giving and receiving, whether it's a gift, a smile, an act of service, that we are in touch with that inner nature of God, with the divine holy presence that we are. So what I'd like to do actually is remind us of our affirmations. So I'm going to take you in, if you would just kind of close your eyes for a moment. We're going to close out. We're going to do a little process, and then I'll close us out in prayer. Because this holiday season, the most important thing that I can give is love. That I can choose love instead of chaos, expectation, fear. So as we become still, and now we have heard the wisdom, we've been reminded of this, we have turned within to the capital greater truth of our being to invoke and evoke the presence of God, capital P, presence, of the spiritual nature of our being. And the first affirmation, which I will say out loud, and then say it to yourself silently, today is a gift of wholeness. Just say it to yourself, so that not only have you read it on your piece of paper, which you can take home, not only have you heard us say it out loud, but now you're hearing your own voice, which is vaguely reminiscent of the still small voice within, the sweet dulcet tones, so that you are speaking it into the law of mind, your mind, to hear and know this as a truth from the wisdom. Today is a gift of wholeness. Today is a gift of joy. I chose that affirmation before finding the Van Dyke quote. Today is a gift of joy. Because if you are hearing me say this, whether you're in the center or you're even watching it on YouTube or listening to it on a CD, today is a gift of joy. Today is a gift of love. Say that to yourself, for you are gifting yourself with these affirmations of truth. Today is a gift of love. We don't have to qualify that as it's coming from a certain person or activity. Today is a gift of love. That gift has already been given unto thee by the very nature that you are here, listening, knowing, and feeling this. Today is a gift of love. Today is a gift of peace. So no matter what has been troubling your mind or heart or body, today is a gift of peace by our very willingness and attention to that. Today is a gift of peace. Today I accept the gifts of the season and the gifts that I am, capital I, capital A, I am. The I am that I am. Today, I accept the gifts of the season and the gifts that I am. The gifts that I am. Perhaps you had forgotten that you are a gift. As you represent the presence of God wherever you go, including within your own mind and heart and spiritual practice. And so if some of these affirmations or words that I've already shared today are uncomfortable or difficult and you can't quite get around it yet, and you think, oh, I don't know if I'm there, at least today, accept the gifts of this season. Today, accept the affirmations of wisdom and truth loving kindness, equanimity. Today, accept it for today. If you want to go back to other thinking and feeling tomorrow, fine. You're at choice. Today, I accept the gifts of the season and the gifts that I am. For that is the most valuable gift I have. And so now as you accept those gifts, I now move us into spiritual mind treatment. And again, I'll continue to say it in the first person so that you may say it along from within and that inner voice can hear it and echo it. That there is only the one life, the life of God. Call it what you will, God, Buddha, Atman, Spirit, the Force. That one life, that very energy that created me is all that I am. I am one with that. Whether I am one with that through seeing nature, I am one with that through my breath and how effortlessly it comes. I am one with that when I hear music and I feel that expansion in my soul. I am one with all that God is, for I am that I am. And knowing that, I may now claim that, and I may now allow that. Let there be. And as I let the greater gifts of the season, all of which are about joy and peace and calm and love, I accept that. And not only do I accept that for myself as the gifts, what I now do is I give it 10 times over. More love. More joy. Oh, and throw in a little more. I give it to those faces that I see, the people that I love, the people I don't even know, because I look behind their eyes where I know that they are hungry for the same sense of joy in the presence of God that I seek. As I find it and as I collect it, then it's like Santa's bag. It just keeps overflowing with the gifts of the season, miraculously. And I stand part of that. I am the giver and the receiver as I let there be the presence of God in my life and in the life of those that I love, and as I know it for the world around me, as we all walk this path of awakening. So I'm grateful for this season. I am grateful for all that this season brings to each of us to walk this path together in this holiness. I take a moment in silence and breathe that in. I accept it as the gift that it is. I give it the same respect and reverence as I would when a beloved hands me a gift that they have chosen just for me. I accept and I receive as I give forth my gratitude, my blessing, my presence, my joy. This is the gift of the season. This is the presence of God that I am, and I celebrate it. So now what I do, I take this prayer, I take this service, I wrap it up in the shiniest, sparkliest paper that I know, which is my love. I wrap it up in the shiniest, smoothest, sparkliest ribbon, and I just release it back into the infinite mind, into the creative law, so that it goes forth to keep on giving. And then I am open and receptive to receive more gifts of God's love. That's what it's about. I let that be. I release it, and I ask that you join me. And together as we say, and so it is, and so I am, and so we are. Amen.